Alright, so in this video, we're gonna just adjust the jump somewhat. So right now, if we were to play our game, and I don't really need this scene view, I'm just gonna shrink it. What you're gonna notice is when we go to play it, give it a second, the jump is very soft, okay? And the reason being is that we're using physics, and it's not terrible. I mean, you could use it. But everything about the motions just feel very kind of wishy-washy, right? It doesn't have that pop. And there's things we could do. I could go through here and we could adjust the mass. And you'll notice that we have no physics material applied to this. So I could add a different physics material. There's things we could do to try and push the physics. And maybe we could probably get it close to what you want. But if we want like ultimate control, a better way of doing it would be to use lerping or linear interpolation. And so the idea here is that instead of adding a force when we hit jump, when we hit spacebar, or whatever the jump key is, we actually specifically through code tell it to move a certain amount of increments, right? A certain amount, so that it looks a specific way. And that's basically what we're going to do. So I'm going to open up my player controller because that's the script that controls it. And it went over here. And we're going to close out of this. And we are going to need to add some variables in order to make this work. Okay, so last time we added the ground and ceiling, so that was good. What I'm also going to need is to add the player transform. So we're just going to do another private transform, and it's going to be player transform, and this is just the thing that holds the transform object of my player. And let's go ahead and just assign that just to get that out of the way. So we're going to say player, or we're just going to initiate its we're going to put it into the variable right in the beginning. So player transform, and we're just going to say get component. The component we want to get is transform. Okay, and that'll just store the transform onto that player. So that's good. We got that. We did the raycast. Okay, so now what I want to do is I need to add the variables for the jump. Okay, so we're going to need a certain number of things. So we're going to be using lerping, but for the lerping, I'm going to need a variable that's going to hold how long the jump is, like when it goes from point A to point B. Because basically the way that lerping works is that you say, okay, there's a certain amount of distance. I have to decide how long I want it to go for, right, from A to B, right? So what the distance is and the time that it's going to take. Okay, so we need those two things. So I'm going to do a public so that I have access to it. I'm just going to make it a float so that I know what it, so that it's got decimal points. And I'm just going to call it jump duration. So how long, the time it takes. And we're going to do 0.33f. Okay, so that just is a double. Then we're going to do public float, and then it's going to be the distance, which in this case is going to be jump height. Okay, and we'll set that equal to 2f to start with. Okay, so those might change. We'll look into it. Another thing I'm going to want is this. So I have the how long it's going to take, how far it's going to go, but besides that, although the name says linear interpolation, I want to determine, like, I want it to be on a bell curve, right? I want it to arc, like, see my mouse? So what that means is that it should go up really quick and then ease into the peak of it, the apex of the jump, and then come back down. So in order to describe that, we're going to use an animation curve. So we're going to do a public animation curve, and we'll just call it the jump anim curve. Okay, so that's how we're going to describe it. And we'll call that good for now. Okay, so another thing I'm going to do is this. So I'm only going to do the jump on my guy on the way up. I'm going to have him pop up, but then when he falls, I'm just going to use gravity, because that way, let's say we jump up here, right? I can decide how high I got to go, but then when I come down, I might come past, right? The jump's always going to end at a certain height, unless something blocks me, which we'll cover, but I'm never going to keep going up. I'm always going to end at some point. But when I come down, it's possible to fall down farther. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn off the player gravity. So you'll see right here it says gravity scale. We're going to turn off the gravity while we're jumping up. But then when we go to fall, we're going to turn it back on. It's going to pop, and then that's going to kick on, and that's what's going to bring us down, not the lerping. It just allows for more flexibility, so we're going to store that as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and do another private, and we will call it a float and player scale, or player, sorry, not player scale, player grav scale, because it's the gravity scale. And then I'm going to add another thing that just stores whether we're jumping or not. So we're just going to go ahead and do another private bool. And it's just going to be jumping, and we'll set it initially equal to false. So basically that's just going to store if we're jumping or not jumping, just like we have like ground check. It's the same idea. Okay, so along with these, I'm going to go ahead and store my initial gravity scale. So the idea here is that right now I have it at 1, but I might want to make it higher or lower. But this way what I can do is I can punch in whatever number I have here, but it will store the value I put there, so that if I want to change it later on, it always starts off the code with that's the default. So we're just going to say player grav scale is going to be equal to player, and we already did up here, RB2 whatever, this thing, dot gravity scale, boom. Okay, so basically we're going to store the gravity scale into that. Okay, so right out the bat, that's the initial thing. Okay. Now, let's see. So we're going to scroll down here, and we have this player velocity, and then we're moving the player there. Right here, we have the jump. Okay. So right now, what it says is it takes the rigid body 2D, which we stored in this variable, and we just say add force transform up player jump strength. Okay. So I'm just going to, for now, you could delete it, but I'm just going to go ahead and just comment it out. And what we're going to do instead is we're going to have it, when we hit the jump button, it's going to run a function. Okay. Now, this is going to be a little bit different than other functions that we do. So, I'm going to make a function called jump lerp. Okay. So we'll go down here, and normally we would write something like over here we said bool, but most often we say void, and then I'd call it jump lerp, right? And then we would do this. Okay. But we can't do that in this case, because when you are running these other functions, these ones and various other ones, they're a one-off. They do one thing, they run what they are, and then they come back. Okay, so meaning that if I were to run this function, it's going to run the function and then immediately run it, and then it's going to go to the next frame. The problem is when we're doing what we're doing now is that he's going to jump, right? But he's only going to move a certain amount that one frame. I need that function to keep running continuously, right? So I can't just say, hey, run it once, because I could say, hey, jump, and it could move it up to how much it wants it to jump, but it's going to happen in one frame, and then, you know what I mean? So it's not going to work. So what I need to do is actually have it continuously while other things are running. I need it to say, okay, move up this much, then move up this much, and then this much, and then this much, and then come back. That's what I need to have happen, because I can't have it. I basically want a function that's going to keep running until it's like done, and then that's it. So it's not going to be a normal function. We're going to have to run what we call a coroutine. Okay, so it needs to be written a certain specific way, and there's a couple different ways to go about doing this. But in our case, what we're going to do is we are going to call this not a void, but an enumerator. Okay, and then to run this, And here, it's going to be start coroutine. Okay, so this is basically what it means. It's going to run this at the same time as something else. And the coroutine I want it to run is going to be that jump lerp. And you write it just like you normally would. Like you put the function and the two parentheses. And then you put a semicolon. Okay, so now when we hit jump, it's going to run this function. And then that'll be fine. Now, the extent you see it's red, it's like a bool or anything else where it has to have a way of exiting, right? So normally, or not normally, but most of the functions we've been running, none of these ones have it, but basically they just run and then that's it. They don't return anything, right? They have this void. But you remember when we run this bool, right? The bool on this function means it returns something. In this case, it's a bool, so it'd be a true or a false. So it has to have a return. The coroutine works the same way, where it has to return something. Okay, so you're gonna notice it's not gonna work. So if you save and try to run it at this point, nothing good's gonna happen. All right, so let's make this sucker work. All right, so right off the bat, we need to store a couple things. So we're going to do a float. We're going to call it jump journey. Okay. So with this, equals 0f. So what this does is it says, you remember before what we're doing is we're doing a, we're doing this thing where we're going from point A to point B. Well, we're going to be at certain points in that. That's what jump journey holds, is where are we in where we're going. Like, it's storing that spot that we're currently in. Okay, so then we're going to do float. Where am I getting jump journey? Float jump journey. Let's see what, we'll come back to it. I'm not sure why it's green. Actually, let me hover over it. What does it say? It's assigned, but its value is never used. Okay, well, yeah, we didn't use it yet. Okay, we're going to do another float called player start y POS, and it's going to be equal to the player, oops, if I could spell, player transform dot position dot y. Beautiful. Basically, when we hit jump, it's gonna set up where we are. Whatever current position of y is, that's the start position. So this is the start position of our jump, right? And then basically we can decide where we are going to jump, how far we're going to jump. That's going to be where the end position is going to be based off of where we said jump height is. So let's say my character right now, where is he at? Here, let's pull this over here. So right now I have it here, and let's say we're jumping. Currently the position is minus 1.83. So that's the start position, and then the end position is going to be this plus 2. So it'll end up being 0.217. It'd be 0.217 would be the end position of that, because that'd be 2 above where this is. Okay, so we have to have a start and an end position. So that's storing where we're starting, because it's just, hey, we hit jump, store where we're currently at. Okay, now it'll actually start doing it. So we want to do this jump, but we should only jump if we're on the ground. We shouldn't be jumping whenever the hell we feel like it. So I didn't swear, but just imagine I didn't. Anyway, so we're going to say if ground is true, right? So if ground is true, we're going to be allowed to jump. Now this is where the magic's going to happen. Basically, if ground's true, now we're going to set up the actual jump. Okay, so outside of this too, just to give it an escape here, I'm just going to do, before this if, we're going to do a yield return null. Okay, so basically if we're on the ground, it's going to run this thing we're going to do. If we're not on the ground, it's going to return nothing. Okay, so it's just kind of an escape, because we have to always return something, and that's the idea there. Okay, so don't like the way that looks. Anyway, so if we're on the ground, go ahead and run whatever's going to be in this brackets. If not, just return nothing. So, because obviously if I hit spacebar to jump and, you know. Anyway, so now we're going to say is while, oops, wrong direction, while jump journey, okay, while jump journey is less than or equal to the jump duration, you're going to run this bit of code. So what this means is, if you remember, jump journey is holding our position that we're currently in. So we're starting at 0, but obviously jump duration, in our case, I already put it up here, is going to be 0.33. So basically, this is going to run, this while loop is going to run as long as jump journey is not equal to the total duration. So for each increment, this will run. Good. Okay, so now what we're going to do is, if we're jumping, first thing I need to do is I need to turn off that the gravity, because I don't want to run any gravity while I'm jumping. I'm going to turn the gravity on after I get done jumping. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do player RBT2 or gravity scale, and we're going to set that equal to 0. Right? So if you remember, we went ahead and stored the, where is it? The gravity scale right in here. So I'm just going to go ahead and set that to 0. So that sets that to 0. That's good. Then we're going to say jumping is true because we're currently jumping. So let's set that to a true value. And this is when it gets more fun. So now we're going to say jump journey is going to be equal to jump journey plus time dot delta time. Okay. Then we're going to do is a float percent equals math dot f dot clamp 0, 1, and that's going to be jump journey slash jump duration. Okay, and that's not what I asked it to do. I said math dot f, and it did math float. That's what I wanted. Okay. Okay, then float curve percent is going to be equal to jump anim curve dot evaluate, and we're going to evaluate the percent, and then it's going to be another float jump y POS is going to be equal to another math.f, mathf.lerp, and we're going to lerp the player start y position to the player start y position plus jump height, because we're adding that into it, and then the curve percent, like so, and then we're going to go ahead and actually do it. Transform dot position, yeah, that's right. Okay, and that's going to be a new vector 3. And it's going to be player transform dot position dot x. We're not touching that one. Then it's going to be jump y position, and then it's going to be player transform dot position dot x, y, and z. And that's going to be z, because again, we're not touching that one. And then we're going to go ahead and yield return. And if this is all good, we're going to return nothing. When this is done, once we break out of this loop, we want to yield return jumping, make it false. All right, so that jumping becomes false, so that turns off. All right. There's one other issue with this, because this will work, but the other thing we need to do is, if you remember, I'll go ahead and save it, see if we get any errors. Probably will. Let's see. I'll click on console just for fun, and we didn't. Surprising. Okay. So actually, this ain't gonna work. So watch. At spacebar, nothing happens, and the reason why is that we have to go to this jump anim curve, and we need to make sure. I'm gonna do a bell. I'm just gonna click on that guy. You can click on these and adjust if you want. Just grab these handles, but I don't really care about that. Okay. Let's see if this works now. Okay. There he goes. So that works fine. You can see it's popping up real good. Much better than before. But what I want you to see is this. The issue I'm having, which you actually can't tell here. So let's do this. And let's Control D, W, bring this up and over. I'm just going to scale a little bit smaller so it's not annoying. Pull this down a little. Okay. Is this. So let's go like that. Hey, what do you notice? Because we don't have anything. If we look at the player, where are you at? Player script. Okay, see how it says ground? We're on, but ceiling, watch. Watch ceiling as I hit spacebar. It turns on, but there's nothing stopping it, so it just shoots right through it. So, which might be a feature to you. So we want to do while the jump journey, jump duration, but also we need a turn off, like a cutoff switch. We also want to say and, where are you? Not ceiling. Okay. Now let's go over here. Let's go over there. And let's see. And now you'll see when we hit it, stops it, which is good. That's what we wanted. And you can see we have a lot more pop in our jump, right? Now you might be like, oh, like the pop's okay. Could be a little bit better. I'm not really super excited about it, but you might want to adjust the gravity scale here. Do something like 10. That was too much. Let's try 2. It's a little bit stronger on the end. Anyway, so that was looking fine. Another thing we need to do is this, but this seems to be acting a little bit not exactly what I was hoping for. Let me see something. So the gravity scale is not turning off. So what we're going to do is this. Instead of player gravity scale like this, I'm just going to go ahead and turn it off manually, because I don't know if that's what's causing it. So I'm going to say player RB2D dot gravity. Cool. I didn't put that in there. That's neat though. Dot gravity scale. I'm going to set that to 0. Let's see if that works better. Give her a second. Let's see, because it should turn that off, and then we should be able to. Good. So now you can see it turns this gravity scale to 0. I can't jump again. So that way it should fall a little more naturally, and the jump should be a little bit better. So, so we're going to set it off there, but now what I need to do is basically just constantly turn it back on. So up here in my, let's do it in fixed update actually, because technically it's a physics thing. We're going to say if basically, if you're not on the ground and you're not jumping, then what I want you to do is this. I want you to do player rb2d.gravity scale. I'm going to set it equal to the player graph scale, which was our initial value that we had stored in the very beginning. Okay. Control S. Okay. Now, you might notice that I did not do this. I did not put Control X. I did not do that. The reason being is, and you could put it in there, and you probably should, just out of good habit. If you have a single thing underneath an if statement, or an else statement for that matter, you don't actually have to put brackets. If there's two, if you have two things or more, you have to put them in there. But if it's just one, you get away without having to do it. Because, I don't know, it's like a weird thing. So, and let's see. So the jump up's pretty good, but the fall down's not that great. So I'm just going to take this gravity scale. Let's try 5. Let's see how that looks. But no, see, that stops us. So you might need to adjust your timing as well. So let's do like 0.25 for my jump duration. Stupid dude killed me. Get out of here. Why do they keep killing me? I'm bad at this game. But you can see it's a lot more poppy, right? Anyway, so that's why we do the alert, because it just gives us more control as to how we're actually moving the player. And that's the basic idea. So just kind of tweaking some of the aspects. The other nice thing about it, though, is the way that I'm doing it is that because we're using the physics for the fall, is that even if I jump, it'll go past the thing. 5 might be a little bit high. But anyway, yeah, so that's basically it. Go team. And I'm just going to save it, and then you finish.